Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal Portal Podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. What is up, all you wonderful, wonderful gatekeepers, all these wonderful listeners in here in this lovely chat. Hello, chat. How you doing tonight? Can you hear me? 5-5. Listen, we've got storms all over the place. My guest tonight is having a little issue back. If I see, okay. So my guests are having a hard time coming in because either the storms just passed, heavy storms, heavy rain, heavy thunder, bless them, no tornadoes that we know of yet, at least around these fine folks. And so we're going to they're going in and out. It's funny because in and out, and I don't know who we're going to have. But here's the deal. Tonight we are communicating, at least discussing what's Spirit up to, what's happening with Spirit in the Hoover house, all the wonderful things the Keystone Paranormal is involved in. Jim, my wonderful friend Jim, all the Spirit communication they've been doing with the table tipping and all that. So that's what we have set for tonight, and talking about our personal experiences there. We've had those so many, and just wonderful. I mean, we tell them and people don't even believe them because it's like that never happened. Well, yeah, it did. But so anyway, I'm not sure in what order. I had something planned, but you know what happens when you make plans, right? Chat. So I see Henry. Hello, Jim. I haven't seen you in a while, honey. How you doing? How's everything over by that wonderful oh gosh, there's so many beautiful things. Having coffee with you in the morning. I hadn't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Chris, how you doing, honey? Thank you for being here and over on Rumble. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to YouTube. But I'm going to tell you what, a lot of people love YouTube, and it is what it is. But over on Rumble, we can have a little bit of a different show. We can talk about things we can't talk about that they don't like you to talk about on YouTube. So we are moving slowly over to there for other shows and movies on Tuesday night. And that being brought up, please get over there to Rumble. We are also on Facebook tonight, and we're slowly going to move from Facebook over to X, unless I up my thing, and I already pay enough for StreamYard, trust me. So you can only do 3 channels. So I'm picking YouTube, Rumble, X, I believe. So if you're on Facebook, we want to keep you. Please come over to those. They're free for the live shows. If you like to chat, get over there in the Rumble, because that's where it's at over there. Great emojis and stuff. Hello to everybody on my Rumble channel. Hey, Scott. Hey, Chris. Hey, Jim. And everybody listening on Facebook too. Unfortunately there you don't really have that instant chat though, so that's why I went over to X, because they are going to have that soon, if not already. I think they may be in the works. So there's that. I wanted to mention the movie on Tuesday. We saw The Uninvited, and it won our vote for Tuesday night the movies, and I had never seen that one. 1944. Absolutely fabulous. Wonderful cinematography. I don't know who suggested it. If it was you, Chris, if it was Lisa, somebody in the chat, it could have been you, Scott. I'm not sure. Henry, how you doing, sweetie? Good to see you. Lots of love and hugs. Uncommon Belief. Hi, hun. Thank you. So to all my mods, drop the links if you've got them. If you've got any links to Hoover House, in Waynesboro, it is a bed and breakfast. So if you want to grab one of those, I don't see Kat in here yet, but she's usually the one that goes and grabs it. But, don't worry. Don't leave the chat now to do it. We'll get it up there and we'll put it in the description as well. So, yeah, had not seen The Uninvited, and I don't know how I missed it from 1944 to now, but I'm thrilled because it was fantastic. Like I said, cinematography, the storyline was good. It wasn't a lot of nonsense. It made, perfect paranormal sense to me. I didn't see anything outrageous. It was like, okay, that wouldn't happen. Everything I saw there absolutely could in my book. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Put your thoughts in there. I mean, I thought it was absolutely believable on paranormal level of not, not insane crazy. Like, okay. Like maybe the house didn't get sucked into the ground, but heard tell of them disappearing. So, what's the big difference between getting sucked into a portal or into the ground or into an earthquake or but on a level of believability as far as the writing, the storyline and everything else, I highly recommend it. It was a wonderful, wonderful suggestion. Our picks for this Tuesday night, if I can get a hold of my Magic Movie Man, and get a clear copy, pretty please. Our two choices are, drum roll please. Anybody have a drum roll in their pocket? Hey, Chris VP. I saw you over on, I think are you jumping back and forth from Rebels? I love my chat so much. Hey, Catherine, how you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. I think I saw Slow. Was Slow in here too? Chat's doing some crazy stuff, so forgive me. I'm trying to focus in. But there's so many different channels, and it's funny the way they each come in a little bit different on the StreamYard. Oh, thank you. I got a drum roll. Thank you, Jim. So our choices are Amityville Horror or Michael Keaton in White Noise. Ooh, I'm telling you, they're both good discussions. They're both, whatever you believe in the Amityville. If you were here, hey Lisa, how you doing, sweetheart? We were just got done talking about The Uninvited. It was great. I enjoyed it so much, and I'm so glad that you guys suggested that one. And if you got any other ones that you want to pull up, we're definitely going to watch The Time of Their Lives, Abbott and Costello. I want to save that for a fun night, and a couple other ones too. But if you have other suggestions, put them in tonight. Put them in, on a Tuesday movie night, and I'll see if I can get a copy, because what we do, if anybody wonders, we don't make any money on that. I put it up, and it's unsearchable, and it only goes out to our subscribers. So if you're not a subscriber to my Rumble channel, you can be on Rumble, but you have to be on my Rumble channel, and you can see it for free, and you can watch it with us. You can get in the chat and we have a blast. We have a blast with popcorn. We all bring snacks. It's a good time. So, and we talk about ghosts. We try to learn from the movie and talk about, oh, that wouldn't happen, but maybe it would happen like this. And why do ghosts knock on doors when they could just walk right through them? That's always a good one. Are the footsteps a ghost coming down the stairs, or is it somebody else, or was it me last Tuesday? So we have a good conversation anyway. So there's that. Now, I'm not seeing my guest of honor, and not to diss my guest that is here, but I think I'm going to have to unravel my surprise to see if I can get the guest of honor in here. And since my tech guy is also the guest that seemed to get through, imagine that. I'm going to bring him on in. You know him and you love him. Wonderful friend of the show. So many things. Podcast host, dog man, Bigfoot. I'm trying to say UFO and Bigfoot at the same time. All the things. It's my friend and brother, Brian Bowden. Get in here and help me technically out of this tangle.
I'm here. I was hoping to surprise everybody. Hi, everybody in chat. I can't use the StreamYard app to actually communicate with anybody. So I'm saying hello to everybody. Lisa, Vixen, Catherine.
You take care of that. I'm going to see if I can find our guest of honor
Scott,
here.
Chris.
Not that there's no honor.
Yeah, no, okay. I mean, I understand. We're having some storms too. Yeah.
Are you getting storms. Them too? We're getting ours, I think, tomorrow, but they just passed him where he is in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. They're
okay. So let me see if I can get him.
Yeah,
because he went dark on
something. I got you. I posted something recently.
Okay.
This took place just
cover it for a minute. Don't get me kicked off of YouTube, you bastard.
No. I'm
Can you hear
just,
me? Just I'm putting it
I'm
in your
not going
hands.
to
I
give you
got to get the
the,
phone. I got my eye on. I'm watching you.
no problem.
Just,
No problem. I'm going to get in
okay.
trouble. Hey, Lisa Ray.
Should,
Um,
I can read lips.
just, just check out my YouTube. Someone posted something on X, and I've seen this before. And the correlation between when this takes place and storms is beyond huge. That's all I'm going to say. Um, just so you know. So you may want to look at it, because I don't think there's a coincidence. Matter of fact, I don't believe in coincidence at all. So, you could, I will be good, Lisa, I promise. I know how to skirt issues while my sister Cisco is communicating with the other side of Pennsylvania. Um, but hi, everybody. Hope everybody's well. We're going through a Mercury retrograde and apparently a Venus retrograde. I didn't, I know about Mercury a bit. Things aren't working, communications, hence what we have here. But apparently Venus retrograde it ends on April, I think it's the 12th. So don't sign contracts now, unless you were negotiating prior to the Mercury retrograde and the Venus. Then you can kind of do it. But if you can hold off a little bit longer, sign it on the 13th of April. And it's not good for communications, relationships, just about everything. Or passwords, apparently. Hey, Steve, Nicole, and Holden, and Mulder as well. So I hope everybody's well. But I was asked to come in to say hi to Jim, and he's a great guy, and had a great experience at the Hoover House. If you need a weekend away or a night away and want to go to a great place, I kid you not, Steve and Pam do a great job with the Hoover House. And hey, Vixen, it's 5-star. It's not as expensive as a 5-star. Everybody's wonderful there. Great experience. They have rooms that are haunted. It depends on which room you're in, what the haunting is, but not in a bad way. And you definitely want to go check it out. It's just a lovely place to hang out and take a weekend away. You and your significant other, whoever that may be. I brought my kids actually because I came there after.
Okay, he's going to try. I'm sorry. We're in the middle of something. Did you freeze up? I come in and you freeze up? This is going to be fun, guys. I can see it happening right now. Are the spirits messing with us? All right, so what's happening with Jim? The update on Jim is he had everything was going. This is after the storm. They had all kinds of stuff hitting out there.
Yep.
So he comes on and now the computer is saying, I don't know, it's saying something. So I told him to shut it down, reboot it, give it a whirl, go in, follow the StreamYard, rehook up your mic and your, your mic and your camera and see if that works. If not, go to the laptop. If that doesn't work, we can go to the phone. So we're going to try that in succession. Meanwhile, we can tell a little bit about, were you telling about Waynesboro? Because I couldn't hear. I had him on the phone.
Yeah, no, I was just telling everybody how wonderful the Hoover House is and what a great place to stay. And, it's not expensive. Pam and Steve and everybody involved in it treat you like gold. It's comfortable. It's homey. It's wonderful. And I'm sure like when it's winter and, possible fireplaces going, it's a quaint town, Waynesboro. It's a wonderful town. You should just go take a trip,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I got it right here.
Sure.
I think I do. I think. Now, this is usually where I get in trouble, where I always think goes black on me, all kind of stuff, sharing, pushing buttons.
I hope you rebooted your router.
Me. I did all of that.
Okay.
I'm all booted, babe. But the storms are now hitting me. So all bets are off. This is going to be a paranormal potpourri. Chat, just hang with us. Start a sing along, somebody. We'll get it. So here's
99 bottles of beer on the wall.
no, not that one. What was Patrick Swayze singing in Ghost? My Tuesday night at the movies. What was he singing to get the now past and rest her soul, R.I.P. Whoopi Goldberg, because I know she passed right after that movie. It was so sad. But Patrick Swayze was singing to her to get her to do his bidding. What was
Right.
the song? Little trivia. What was the song? Wasn't 99 bottles of beer on the wall, but it was just as annoying.
Really?
Yeah.
If I disappeared for a second, it's not intentional. I'm
Are
just
you
trying
going
to
to
turn a
disappear?
light.
Are you going through
No,
a
no, no, no,
portal?
no, no. No, I'm not going through a portal, my dear.
This is historic. I have no strength to go in and get you, so you're on your own till the morning. Historic 1912 Hoover House. It's lovely. Look at this. Isn't this gorgeous? So here's some of the rooms. Pick your room. Each one has a name. I don't know them all. This is downtown Waynesboro. So this is just a little bit about their website, more about the Hoover House, other pictures. It's lovely. I've sat on that couch. I've
Yes.
sat at the bar. I've drank at that bar. And there it is from the front.
Yeah.
It's lovely. I love the door. Oh gosh, the door. Yeah, I love all that stuff. The staircase, beautiful. The bar is to the right, and then you can go around to the back, and it just keeps going. And this side over here to the left, to your left, is going to be the parlor, and there it is. I can't remember if the fireplace is still working. Do you, Brian?
I want to say yes, and then again, I want to say there was something in it, like a heater or a space heater. I don't recall.
Yeah.
You know,
this is usually where we do the table tip in this. Well, yeah. This no, wait.
The parlor. You do it by the
This
parlor,
one,
right
this
in front
one,
of
right
the
here. The couch, the cream couch. Oh, I heard a pop.
Yeah.
All right, and there's the bar. Let me come in here and see what's going on. No, all right, we have. Oh, I see him. That maybe we ought to get him. Let's add him in here real quick.
Yep.
You ready? Thumbs up. Look at you. Look at look at all these techies. Get in here, Mr. Jim Wyrick. Everybody, unmute yourself, sweetheart. Or did I mute you? Unmute your mic. You should be able to see your mic there. And
it's at the bottom of the screen.
And I've got no picture. Hold on.
It's going to take he's going through and swap me with him when he comes in. It's going to take him a minute.
Well, there he is. Okay, can you hear me okay? See, I've got his microphone is off. He's got to turn his mic on.
Right.
Can you hear me? Unmute yourself. It won't let me do it from this side.
No, they don't. He has to.
Yeah, he's got to do it.
Press the button at the bottom of. There
it is. Yay!
Cisco, drag him to where I am, and I'll go to the bottom.
How do I do that?
Just click on his image and drag him up, and we'll swap out. There you go.
I didn't know I could do that. Look at us learning. Look
Hi,
at
Jim.
This is a beautiful house. Hey, Jim, surprise.
Yes, yeah.
Surprise. Do you know this mug right here?
Had this working, and then just literally like 3 minutes before time, all of a sudden I started getting this message, and somehow I don't know what's going on. We just had a pretty good thunderstorm. We wanted a tornado watch up here, but luckily nothing touched down. But it may have screwed up the internet. But I'm working on my laptop, so we should be okay.
Okay.
That should be good.
I got you back on Rumble. We're good. Okay. Are you good? Can you hear now, Lisa? Everybody give me a 5-5 if you can hear. I just want to be sure before I just go on. Hey, Sarah, welcome in. So welcome in, everybody. Yes, it's an absolutely beautiful house. We were just showing off a little bit of the Hoover, so I can pull that back up, Jim, if you want to just speak a little of it, because, we've all been there, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And, of course, we're going to be talking about that and the table tipping and a little bit about what Spirit's been doing in the house and around and with us, too.
There's Pam's got it. We had a full house last night. One of some of our frequent flyers, I call them, coming up a lot. They had a birthday for the one set of gals. And so it was a full house. And, I looked about and I just saw they were playing some cards in the one parlor and people at the bar in the other. And, nobody was out of order. It was a nice group. And I looked about that. and just everybody was having a real good time. Jim Houston was there, and
Oh
and
yeah, I like them.
I thought it's really become like a little mini sanctuary for a lot of people, and it made my heart feel good. I said that, and then we got a pleasant surprise. Pam and Steve told me Saturday they had that. Remember last year we somebody nominated us for the Tri-State Award for best bed and breakfast
Oh
or
gosh,
that.
yeah.
And anyhow, so we knew about that, so we were asking our friends to call them. Well, we didn't even do anything with that this year. Called us, evidently called Pam and Steve Friday, and we won again. And we didn't even know who
That's
entered.
awesome.
People were voting for it and stuff. So Steve said, "Let's go ahead and get the little plaque they give you. We'll put it." I said, "Yeah, let's do that." And they want us. I guess they have a dinner for the various award winners and stuff. So
That's great.
anyhow, that was really cool.
Yeah,
And
I know
then
we voted like crazy. A lot of us jumped in there and pushed you over. Didn't you get? Don't you get a billboard or something too?
yeah, you get a couple things. It honestly it's not as big a deal as sort of they build it up, but it is. It's local. I noticed a lot of they have all these categories, and a lot of the businesses, they display it pretty proudly. So anyhow, that was sort of nice, especially when we didn't even know anything was going in about that. So
That's really nice. Isn't it nice how spirit shifts things? And
it
they
does.
will too. I mean, I heard a guy say the other day, if you can't just sit around and walk with expect your angels to walk around either. They need you to talk to them and tell them, hey, look, could you intercede for me today? This is what my goal is today, and I really don't want to go into this job, or I have to go talk to this person, or I have to go do this thing. If you could intercede in any way for me to help me get through, that would be great. Or give me signs, I need to make a decision here or there. And if you start doing those communications, it's just like the next level of noticing the numbers and the signs. So if we can notice when spirit moves in, or I mean, what do y'all think? I mean, I think that's absolutely the way to do it. What do you think?
Yeah,
100%. I've been praying like a banshee.
yeah.
So sorry, Jim.
No, I think we all have. I mean, it's last year and even this year. I mean, it's been rough. We've lost a lot of dear friends, or one of our good friends there at the house, Andy. Evidently, last week his sister, who's still a pretty young lady, she's in her 40s. She was living with his grandmother, and grandmother goes in the morning, and she's passed away in the bed.
Oof.
And evidently, they matter of fact, he was there last night. We were all talking with him, and he had requested if we could do a private session to see if we could get some answers for the family from her. And uh, I guess the coroner called, and it turned out it was a heart attack. But it's just rough. I don't know. I guess it's the times we live in.
Mm, yeah.
Mortality. But
Yeah.
I thank the
And
Lord.
always let people know. I mean, in my opinion, and based on a lot of the stuff that I've picked up through the few years I've been involved in this, always ask people to wait about 3 months before really trying to, you know what I mean? Sometimes spirit can come in and they can like do the what I call the goodbye,
Right.
the
Right.
goodbye, I love you. And they can do that because in their mindset that's where they are. But if they have to go through something else, like they just go right over, and and the person, the living left behind, also have to go through their thing too. They might not be
When
ready for the message.
when you
Yeah.
3 months.
transition to heaven, um, it's there's an orientation period, and
Exactly.
you're
Yep.
greeted. Usually, you're getting brought in by family members. Hopefully, um, they let you off at the orientation. It's like going to college, but a really weird way. And they start they start talking to you about you, and they show you where you went right, where you went wrong. They let you kind of settle in a little bit, and at the end of it, they give you the choice. You can correct it and go back, or if you need more time, you can stay here for a little bit. And then when you're ready, if you want to correct it, you go back. Most people don't realize that, but you need a certain amount of time uh, for the grieving, the loss, and them to get acclimated to where they are before they can actually communicate with you.
Yeah, the one thing a lot of times, like you said, just sort of greet or that, they'll come through. It'll be a very, very quick and small session, like a minute or two, but they'll give you their energy signature, so
Yeah.
you be able to recognize it going forward.
Mhm,
Dave's dad did that to me. Just this,
mhm,
we had the luncheon, the after the burial, and I was shocked. I was in we got there a little ahead of the family and stuff, and we were at the facility, and I'm sitting there with my wife and my sister, and my daughter came in, and I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden, man, I'm hit by this wave, and I'm tearing up, and I'm like, and I was wearing my grounding stuff, and I'm like, wow, and then, but he had some real tender, dear messages he wanted to pass to
mhm,
my daughter for her help at the end, and
mhm.
also to tell Dave when I thought it was right, when it was appropriate thing, and
Very
and I,
cool. That's a
Yeah.
strong energy, and it's so much easier. And Brian, jump in here if you need to. It's so
Yep.
much easier, in my opinion, when you're in this group and you get it. It's almost like we have it's almost like an elation of jumping in and out. You probably, I think a high percentage of soul or spirit, whatever you want to say, when they leave the body, they hang around. They come back for their funeral. They come back and forth because they're also dealing with, gosh, I don't want to, my dog or my loved one or whatever it may be. And you check on them a little bit and you go back and forth. Some just shoot right over and forget about us for a few minutes, and time is
Yep.
different. Time is so different, because they're caught up in that. It's each one is different, but a large percentage of them at least come back for that gathering because they want to do what Jim is talking about right now. It's almost like they swoop in and just give hugs, like a soul kiss, kind of
Right.
thing. And you get that soul kiss. And then what Jim is describing, and if you don't know, Jim is a very part of Hoover House, and it's not only a bed and breakfast, but this place is haunted, and it's also a place of light where lots of spirits have drawn in. They've gotten very familiar with people there. The spirits there that guard this house and filter the energies for this house, bring in lots of other spirits to get connections to people that visit there. It's an amazing place, and I know you've heard me talk about it before, but that's what we're speaking of now. And when you lose somebody that's part of this group that has an understanding and a knowing at least about some of this, at least open to ghost, paranormal, the whole thing, metaphysical. I don't even know how deep Dave's dad was in it, but he was certainly familiar with it hanging around y'all. So
yeah,
it makes it easier.
he'd been to the Hoover House, and a matter
Yeah.
of fact, we had a birthday celebration for him there a
Yeah.
couple years.
But also being
Yeah.
around this, you're familiar hearing about it. So you're a little more open to it, almost like an elation. You probably felt, you get that sadness, but the overwhelming feeling when it goes through you or goes by you, like you said, that warm wind, you knew. It's so hard to describe,
Yeah.
but and that familiar, it might be a scent, it might be a scent of tobacco, it might be a scent of a cologne, of Old Bay, not seasoning, but what was that, Old Spice, bay rum? I mixed those
Okay.
two
Yeah.
and called Old Bay
Yeah,
cologne. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, it smelled a little like crab behind the ear. But anyway, there's that familiar, that almost that it's okay to be here to do this. I'm extra,
Well,
energized.
that's
It's easier. It's
that's
easier when you're in that environment. Is what I'm trying to say.
so in relationship back to the orientation, that's actually part of your orientation.
Mhm.
Most people aren't totally aware that they've passed on because it's not,
That happens
this
too.
grandiose moment. So what they do is they let them see and they let them have a moment. They say, "Oh, look who came," and
Mhm.
whatever, and it kind of sinks in a little bit more. Um, it's easier, actually, believe it or not, when if you have a loved one who's been suffering for a long period of time with some kind of illness, cancer, Alzheimer's, whatever it is. when they go and they're very much aware of what's going on around them, they may not be able to communicate it. When they transition and they're back to where, hi, I'm me again, they'll instantaneously they're going to go back and like, hey, I'm okay, and we're good. I'll be back, and then they go back into like
Some
figuring out
do.
what's going on. Some of them do.
Some do. Yeah, and again, I just always reiterate the fact that you don't really. It's up to you what your consciousness is, what vibration you go out on, how you went out, because again, it takes you a minute. There was a great show, and I don't know the whole show, and I'm not recommending it or anything else. I've only seen clips, so I wouldn't. Lord knows what the rest of it's like. So don't get me wrong, but I saw clips, and I think it's called The Reaper, and people just discover that they're dead, and the Reaper comes, and everybody has a different experience, with this guy, and it's just a regular
Right.
looking guy. And but it's the way they did it, it's kind of, I saw this one lady get up, and she's looking, and he's looking at her, and she's talking to him like, what are you doing in here? This is my kitchen. I never heard a knock, that kind of thing. She doesn't realize, and he's
Right.
like, I'm sorry, you've passed. And he keeps looking at the floor, and finally she looks at the floor, and it's her. And it's this kind of realization. But I thought that was just so, because I've been involved in those cases, the one where the guy is just screaming at this girl, and it's so much, and it's almost like she was an older Sixth Sense kid, and her kid was becoming like the Sixth Sense kid, that little one, I see dead people.
Right.
So, but she doesn't know how to control it, and they just see her light and start screaming at her. It's like this all the time. She doesn't know how to stop it. So that's where you get like your drug addicts and alcoholics and doing all kinds of things to shut it up. But so this guy was like that, and he was just so erratic. But you've got the ones that are on the other side, like Jim's talking about, where he's kind of like through people and just giving messages, and like, I'm okay. Make sure at the right time you tell this person this. I'm okay. That kind of stuff. That also happens. So
Something that was most amazing that happened to me, and I thank Jim for it. When we stayed at the Hoover house, I did that purposely.
No.
Because my wife's mother passed, and everybody, and I was hoping that she would come through on the table tipping session, and she's not a believer in a lot of this stuff. I kind of kept the kids away for a little bit in it. So that was my intention. I mean, I also had an intention, maybe my dad would show up a little bit here. But during this session, and I don't know if you remember it, we had two people vying to get into the table. And Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, when you say, okay, there's spirits here, and they start going around and like, okay, are you male? And the table will tip, or are you female? Whatever your gender is. Say, okay. And Jim was leading this whole thing with the family as well. And they go,
I just have to jump
hey,
in here and say, most of the time,
yeah.
the table only tips two ways. Just
Right.
saying. For those of you who get that, fine. For those, be offended.
Right. It only goes two ways. But so they go around the table like, does your name start with an A, B, C? Because they don't know who's there. It's not communicating at that point. It's not fully in. So they went in there, and there was a male and a female fighting to get in. So the female happened to be my mother-in-law. So they called her over, because it was just me at the time. She wasn't even there. So I called her over, and we went through this whole table tipping session. And we brought the kids over, and they started crying, and you could feel the energy. The longer it tips towards you, it's like a hug. Am I correct, Jim?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so, I was happy that she got a little bit of, her mom again. And you can ask questions of the table, and you don't have to say them out loud. And I told her beforehand, like I told my wife, like, if you don't believe it, you could try to trick them. Like, you could say, the last car we have, it was blue, correct? And
Right.
and you could say it in your head. And if the table moves, you'll know whatever reason. But the table was spot on. But what was really miraculous was there was somebody else trying to get in. It was a male figure. And it was a relative of my wife's. And they went around the room and said, we're going to spell the name. So they go A, B, C, D, and they got to M and it tipped. And then they went A and then it tipped. And they went through the whole thing and then it got to X and it tipped. And they're like, Max. Now I have a grandfather, Max. But it was for my wife. Apparently, my father-in-law's brother, who was killed during the Holocaust when he was a baby, under 6 months old, was there, and he was stuck there in the ether. And I stepped away from the table. I'm hanging around the table, and I'm getting these images. And the best image I can tell you what this man looked like, he kind of looked like Tesla, which is very reminiscent of my father-in-law. He looked a little bit like Tesla with the mustache, and I saw this. Eventually, Jim guided him into the light. You felt it. Everybody in that room felt this energy and this. I can't even describe it. I'm getting goose pimples just talking about it. And I watched and I saw it play out in my mind's eye. This is how I operate. And I saw this man, the room opened up. It started to get light with a golden light. And Jim kept saying, go to the light. And he was walking towards it. And he went into the light. That was the first time I've ever helped to transition somebody into the light. And
I wasn't
I'll
at
never
that one.
forget
That's
it.
amazing.
No,
I
no,
wasn't
you were
at that
not.
one. I was at the one later on down the line, but that one, that's amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And go ahead, Jim.
just to
Answer this question here.
yeah, I am not related to the Wyricks from the Georgia situation. I'm well aware of that haunting, and Wyrick isn't a common name, but we are not related. And
Yeah,
also,
me too, Vixen.
we I guess it might be a little different from what a lot of people are used to in the paranormal field. We do make prayers to the Lord Jesus Christ, and we ask for his blessings in what we do. And I, at no time have I felt any disharmony with the teachings of what I believe from a spiritual base. And it may sound a little weird, but I just sort of think it's my own special ministry that, that if we're able, a lot of times being able to communicate with your family from the other side, and sometimes even just knowing the emotions they have for you, it's very healing.
It is
And obviously
without a doubt.
ultimate healer. So, I truly think what we do, now we only work with the high vibrations and stuff. Luckily we've only had a few situations where lower vibrations or maybe mischievous energies have tried to, come there. And one in particular I want to mention because
Go right ahead, please do.
really neat. There's a gentleman who's created a paranormal event group, and he had come down. They were in the throes of just getting started, and he knew he had an attachment on him, and he sort of told Steve in advance, and Steve felt impressed to tell him, still come on down, you're supposed to come down. So when he did, we were at the table, and Steve picked up that this energy, this attachment energy, was trying to come through, and it had made his life a mess. I mean, everything was going to hell in a handbasket. And Steve said real quickly, let's break. We broke off. We didn't recognize it. And I'm not good at that. I'm not good at really being, I can spot a mischievous energy or pick up on it, but for me to get the identity is sometimes difficult. And Steve picked up on that. We broke, did not give it recognition. And then within about just a couple minutes, suddenly I picked up on a very powerful, strong white energy that was just all encompassing, and it was surrounding us, and it literally was blowing this thing out the door. And he came through and he identified himself as Invictus. which is unconquered. And there's a number of very interesting poems related to Invictus and all that. Well, anyhow, this energy told this person, I'm not gonna say, but he was associated with a very well-known, publicized place, with hauntings and that. And he had told us this whole tale about how this thing was very deceiving. It came on as your friend and was encompassing in your life, and then when you sort of accepted it, then it turned on you viciously and started to destroy your life. So anyhow, Invictus told him, I've driven him off. He's away. You don't have that attachment, and told him how his life was going to change for the better. And anyhow, so that was that session. I can remember the strength. He came back about 2 or 3 weeks later with some other people from his group he was starting, and Invictus gave us all a warning. He told Steve, myself, and this individual that we were never to set foot in this particular property or stuff where this energy was. And that was no problem for me. I listened to spirit. Evidently, this guy he came back, and Invictus came through again and said, I don't believe you believe what I'm telling you. And he made his point again. He said, and things really started turning well for this person. His new business was going well. Everything was going well. Fast forward about 6 or 7 months, and he came down, and evidently he had gone back and reestablished connections with this place and all that. And it just all blew up. And so he's still around in the field and stuff. I don't know where they're at, but when things went really south, he had everything going on. So
and people don't get it. It's like all the times we've talked about the stories we've talked about, we all have 100 of them probably. And that's not hyperbole. It's just either knowing somebody that has, or being involved in cases with personal accounts, or just stories from people we trust. So the main thing is, if you notice what Jim said at first, we didn't give it any recognition. And then you get the people that that can, deal with this or move it on. In Jim's case, what he is talking about is what I mentioned earlier. There is an establishment of spirit around Hoover House. It's people that lived there before, that were established at the property, that for whatever reason, went through, comes back and visitation. I don't believe any of the ones that actually live there are stuck. There are different ones in each level. And then you have your spirit guides and the spirits that have been drawn there, that are, let's just say, ascended beings, ascended souls. So I don't want you to just think it's spirit guides or it's angels or it's, visiting spirit that were human and just have power. It's all of those things. And it's whatever you need at the time. So it will actually draw people to this house that have certain skills. This is how good the universe is, and this whole subject. When you really get to know how it works, it's almost like when you let go and you let your higher self and your source. For me, that's God. It's the grandfather. It's the Great Spirit. It's the source of light and love and all things. When you start to just lean on that and go, you know what, I'm open to all this because I obviously don't know anything, and you just start seeing how it all moves through, like Jim just said, through a life. And then you tell that person, you don't want to go back to the things that drew it in the first place. You don't want to go back to the places. You don't want to be talking about it. I tell you how many people I know that good people spend a lot of energy, time, and money and to get things off of people and away from people, have them go right back to it. Right back to it. And that could be something really, really bad, or it could just be a regular ghost or a regular loved one that that has passed. And that's what I wanted to say about in the beginning. I'm very careful in how I describe that. When people explain to me that and I got to be careful how I say this, because grief, nobody can tell anybody how to grieve or a loss. I just say, if you're going to remember something that from about somebody that makes you sad, make sure you close that off, just like you would with anything to finish it, closing the door. I want you to think of something happy about that person. I want you to laugh. I want you to sing a little bit of a song. I want you to end it in a happy note, because that gives them the strength to do what they have to do on the other side, and they're not as worried about you. And, you go ahead and do what you got to do, Mom, Dad, Bob, Billy, Fluffy, and you go do what you got to do. I'm right here loving you, and I'll never forget you. And you're right here, and I'll be talking to you tonight. That kind of thing. Sending your love to. If you do that, it helps them move. But I'm not saying don't grieve. You have to move through that on your own, and
Right.
you have to get through it. But this will also help you, and it'll help them. And that's why I say 3 months. I'm not saying if you're not in a funeral, that's not them, or at a memorial or at a birthday party. I'm not saying that at all. Their time
No.
is their time. Their time is their time, and they're
So-
going to do what they're going to do. Am I right? I mean, so far for theory, it's all theory, but
So-
what do you think?
Yep. I was going to mention, 2 years ago when the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash was at the original location hotel, Cisco was there, Eric was there, myself, and a few of the friends of the Battlefield Bash were there. One of their friends passed on, so we were sitting there to do a table tipping session outside the actual main conference area, and I'm thankful there were a few people. When Cisco said and Jim say, Spirit brings and makes sure people are there, whether they know it or not, to do certain jobs. Like, some people have foresight, some people have ability to not give the energy or cut the cord. We were there trying to start a session, and I knew exactly who it was when it started. And because I saw it in the corner of my eye, and there was a very powerful spirit that was saying, the heck with all of you, I'm coming in. And it was nasty. And everybody's like, ooh, this is nasty. I said, yeah, I know exactly who this is. And it was my mother. And she was there begging, pleading for forgiveness from me, which I cannot do personally. That is up to God, in my opinion. And she refused. And I said, you need to go. We're here to help others, not you. And
I'm pinching him under the table, going, "Let's just get this over with." He's like, no,
and then
come on.
one of the friends just came
do
out and
it.
said bye and literally pulled them out and got rid of them. She went to the corner, and when she did, the light over there went out. My
Yeah.
grandmother did come in. I said, I know it's you, Grandma. We're here to help some other people. I'll talk to you when I talk to you. And she left, and then we had that session, and it was amazing. We brought in the friend that passed away, and she was just, the table was dancing. And let me tell you something, that table was moving, and it's on carpet. There was nothing underneath it. And everybody, you could see her. She's kind of like, but that's the spirit that I remember of her. I wasn't as close to everybody. She was like, I'm good, and brought so much joy to the table.
Mhm.
And it's amazing. But
In the
after that,
room.
into
the
the
room.
room. And then that.
So I do, one second, I don't mean to cut you off, but for everybody that
No
was
problem.
there, and this is why we do the movie, because now I can reference back to Ghost and say, remember in the room when all the spirits were in the room and they were trying to get Whoopi's character she could hear and she could see, and she
Yep.
could only hear this one ghost, but she knew
Mhm.
everybody else was around, and they're all, the strong energy pushes forward. So if they have a bombastic energy in
Yep.
life, more than likely they're going to have it in death, especially if you're trying to fix unresolved issues and things like that. And I just, the disclaimer, because Brian and I do this all the time. You know how I feel about it. You got to just forgive it. You don't have to forget. This is me. This is my advice. You just forgive it and move on, because that takes rocks out of your pocket. Rocks out of your pocket too. It's not doing, the only thing it's doing for them is letting them go and finish up what they've got to do. but that's all it is. Because listen, my
Right.
dad, oh my God. Oh my God. I was the only one that wasn't fighting in the kitchen when this man passed. He left so many kids. I think the last time I counted, I don't know, maybe 20 something. I mean, and I'm not even counting. He was overseas in the war for like 4 years in Italy and South Africa and all over. So who knows? Hi, brother and sis. Because he was extremely good looking. He looked like a cross between Robert Mitchum and Michael Madsen. He could draw, he could drink, he was great at sports, he was an athlete, he could shoot darts, and he could drink with the best of them, and he'd play cards and win. And he was a card counter. So, I mean, what's not to love, right? You just don't, he would have been a great date. Nobody should have ever married him. I think he was married 7 times. My mother was one of the few that survived him. But this is just the truth. My family wants to get offended by it. There you go. So what? I'm the baby.
Right.
It's my time now. Y'all had your, you all had your time to deal with it the way you wanted to deal with. And again, I'm not ashamed by it. This is who he was. And because I'm looking at it, I can see characteristics in me where I got to cut that circle. So if you're continuing that circle, your kids are going to continue to circle and their kids are going to continue to circle because it's in your bloodline DNA. So cut it. Cut the abuse, cut the this. I can seriously look at, just as soon as I could look at my dog that was half German Shepherd, purebred, well, as close as you're going to get purebred, German Shepherd with papers, and then the Chow, German Chow with papers. They had a pup, and I'm looking at my dog, and I could tell the parts of him that were German Shepherd, and the traits of him that were Chow, and the tail was Chow, and the face was Shepherd. I mean, we're like that too. But think about what mutts we are. We don't have that pedigree. So we've got a little bit of our dad, a little bit of, our mom, and then our kids have a little of us, and that used to be taken into consideration when picking a mate to have kids with. Now we're just, we're not even looking at that. Seriously though.
It's just,
yeah. But think about that. So when you have the kids, what kind of DNA, I'm trying to find a word that I can say on YouTube. Chicanery. There we go. That are you mucking around with, and what did you just entwine with? So when I can look at something like, okay, I understand why, why I have an anger thing is because I care. You see what I'm saying? And I don't think he got that. He would just get angry and go because he couldn't deal with the emotion. It was the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. That's all. Don't look back. Next thing, next thing, next thing. And that's no excuse. But I could see the traits and I'm going, okay, that gets cut. That cord gets cut in this lifetime. So this is why these conversations are so important. What are the dead coming back to tell us? Jim, that's what they're coming back to tell us. That love is the most important thing. All the silly stuff we get hung up on is nothing. Right? And this is school. And this is school. And it's all that you're accountable for your actions. You're accountable for your, for your thoughts. I think I heard a guy, I can't remember what doc it was, but he said only kind of like your second and third. It's not so much you get with the first thought you have that goes through your mind. You go, oh, can't do that because that just wouldn't be right. But boy, I'd like to, but it's the one when you hang on to it. When you keep thinking and you keep thinking, so let it go. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go this route, or maybe not. Your mileage may vary, but that's that to that point. When I understood that, man, that blew my mind. I'm like, oh wow, I'm screwed. But we all know none of us are worthy. So, but the thing is what are you doing with your energy now? And do you want to deal with it now, or when you get over there? Because how many people we brought across the tables, Jim? And I mean, and you do it, all the time. And talking about that, would you mind going through, for those who don't understand what we're talking about as far as table tipping? I love the way you guys do it, from how you got the table. Some people pick their tables, how the tables pick them, right down to the sandalwood and that we put down. And how it's done.
Much of this is really just by the seat of your pants. I mean, a lot of times you have to react to unique new experiences or situations. For anybody not familiar, this whole table tipping was something back in the turn of the century, as we're coming out of, World War I and all that deaths, and then of course this the flu epidemic, and so you had about a quarter of the world that died. And so people were desperate to to hear about their loved ones, how they were doing. So it was a great age of spirituality, and there were a lot of techniques and things done. There were some really legitimately gifted people, and there were a lot of charlatans trying to make a buck. And and it'll always be that ratio too. But anyhow, um, for myself, Pam and Steve knew a medium from Lilydale, and this medium had come down when they had the Lookout House, and had taught them, had done some table tipping with them. I knew of it, but I had never tried it, and so while at the Lookout House, Pam and Steve sort of demonstrated it to me. We had an amazing night. I couldn't believe what we were witnessing, and for some reason, spirit just sort of took to me, and it's all through spirit, and none of it's me. It's just trying to keep myself at a position where they trust me to be willing to expose themselves, because it's very much a symbiotic relationship. And anyhow, um, these tables, they a lot of them have their own energies. Some of them don't, and you can use it as an instrument with the spirit. It's all dictated by spirit. But I think to really get family associations, it's best to have a table with some energies of its own, and it'll identify itself, and it'll tell you all about their life history and their purpose. And I really, the more we've done this over the last many years, I'm sort of convinced this is their mission from the other side. That this is something they've agreed to, and to
I'd
assist.
have to agree, because there's some of them that are just so good at it, Jim. There's some of them that are just so, and again, I know that other spirit guides are walking spirits in. I know that I've had that experience before the table tipping thing, but I think it's so strong there because, for what I said, this is a gathering of light, right, Bri? I mean, it's just this place was made for it. I think the house picked you guys. I think the spirit guides drove you there. But when you guys, so many of you have the stories of, I went to the antique place. I'm going by this table almost spoke to me. So you had a feeling about it. So much like you would if you were picking crystals. I know when I pick crystals, I do, my hand over the crystals to see which one jumps out at me. I let the kind
Right.
of that stuff pick me. Same with animals and things like that. So it's similar when you're going through and you're thinking about getting a table. You might not even be thinking about it. And you get this table. So Jenny's got one, Jim's sister, and I love it. And the energy
She's
on it is
great.
amazing. I love her. Oh my gosh. Everybody
Yeah.
over there is wonderful.
Yeah.
And it kind of called out to her. So this is it. So you might have a table, and then you go, okay, you have a spirit guide or whatever, or spirit that wants to be like jump in that table. It's more like a jumper. It's like not living in the table. It's using
Right.
the table at that moment. Do you see what I
And
mean? And Jim is also saying, one second, Jim is saying that some tables do come with a spirit, and that's a different thing, but it's similar. Does that make sense? Is that what you were kind of saying, Jim? I think he's froze. I think I heard you say yes. You'll probably pop back on. Go ahead, Bri.
well, I was going to say that when we did the table tipping session at the Hoover House when we were staying there, Jim asked his sister to bring the table over. I forgot the table's actual name. Um, but what's very interesting about these tables, they don't let in, they do not let in bad energy. They are the gatekeepers, if I'm correct, Jim. And they will discern whether something's coming in or not. They'll
Right. It's a
tell it,
filter.
stay the
It's a
hell away
filter.
from it. Yeah.
Spiritual filter. So I believe it's your guides, and in some cases it could be your guide, and it's just using the table. But it ushers in the spirit. So I would imagine it looks very much like that scene, and like I keep using in Ghost, room full of
Ghost.
spirits. And then they're lining up, and the spirit guide is like the coordinator, and it's going, okay, you first, because the spirit guides that are getting together, because think about it, this is a crowded room. So you have our spirit guides, you have the spirits, you have the earthbound spirits, you have the spirits that are visiting, that are kind of not lower vibrational, just lower ascension. Let's put it that way. Lower, understanding consciousness maybe, and they have something that they have to deal with. So these spirits have gone and convinced this couple that thinks they're staying at the Hoover house for whatever reason. They could be coming here for this very thing or to investigate or just visit, and they're staying in a nice beautiful room and have no idea. And they walk by and we're sitting there doing the table tipping or whatever, and they go, oh, wait a minute, that's interesting. And the next thing you know, grandma's here, but that's been planned for weeks.
Yeah,
Right. They know what's coming.
Sometimes they're down there like a day or so before the guests, and they're like, tell my granddaughter that, and I'm like, well, we can ask her to come today, but we can't really,
Yeah.
This was a really neat experience we had last year during the summer. We've been working up at Monterey Pass, which is about 6 miles due east of us. It is actually Gettysburg Day 4. It was involved with Lee's retreat from Gettysburg. He had wagons of wounded, supplies, and Union cavalry under General Custer and Kilpatrick happened to run into Lee's a portion of Lee's wagon train. It would have been 72 miles of wagons if it was just one dedicated lane. So he split them into two. Still an awful lot of mileage of wagons, and they were coming through this height, mountainous height east of town, and a terrible thunderstorm burst out that night, and it was confused. Everybody's wearing these black raincoats, so all the soldiers could see were men in black. They didn't know who they were firing on. There was cannons. There was over 10,000 head of cattle that Lee had confiscated. Well, they bought it with Southern, money, but that was worthless. But they were moving them back for food supplies, and so they stampeded in the thunderstorm and with the cannon and shots. So they're rushing over the mountainside, smashing up on the rocks, as well as cavalry. It was a terrible scene, and it played through to the morning. So we've been doing work up on those grounds. The museum up there has a lot of artifacts they found, and we have access to that. And they just purchased the tollgate house, which was there at the time and sort of central to a large portion of the battle. So we'll have access to that this year as well. But anyhow, I'm doing this session, and we had, it was about a dozen Confederate soldiers from the 1st Maryland Cavalry came through, and they were Southern based, and they came through, and it was quite serious. They're buried in a mass grave a few miles from the area, and they wanted recognition. So they're coming through. We're doing a table session. They're coming through and talking with us and telling us where to go. And all of a sudden, it's like they all stepped back, and suddenly this young girl presents herself, and she gave us her name, and you could tell it was something very recent. This wasn't anything connected with that period. And the gentleman who has access for us, he was aware. Evidently, the day before, we had a serious storm come through the area, and on these rain-slickened roads, she had lost control of her car. It had hit a tree, bounced back, and a truck hit it. And she was done. And it was a very gruesome accident. And it occurred about a half a mile from where we were. She must have seen light or something, or just seen an opening and came there. And
that's exactly right. That's exactly right, Jim. She saw the light and she felt the spirit. And that's why haunted houses sometimes have more than one. It's rarely one, because they're drawn. But yes, please continue.
Yeah, so she came and presented, and basically, I'm saying, what is your current state? She wasn't quite sure she was passed. She thought she was dead, but she wasn't quite sure, and she was in the process of checking it out, and I guess visiting people and just ascertaining for herself whether or not she was no longer in mortality. And so it was amazed how the soldiers had stepped back and let her present herself, which was very touching. But in the meantime, I don't know what to tell her.
Also because they were stronger. That this is
Okay.
also why. So what you described is exactly what I was describing as far as the spirit guides bringing forth the others. Is they're not just guiding, they're bringing. It's almost like they're using their energy to break through the veil, and they're kind of pushing them through. It's an
Right.
amazing thing.
Well, she goes, I don't know what to tell. I said, well, you have to find that out for yourself. But I said, let me tell you, there'll be light several miles from here. If you're traveling, like so many miles east of here, I said, you'll see some light, referring to the Hoover house.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if you really need help, please look for that light, look for my energy and aura, whatever, however you see me, and please present yourself. We'll be glad to help you.
Wow.
And so anyhow, so a week goes by, and then it was probably a week and a half, and we're doing across the street from the Hoover house and up a half a block is the Aller house where the Waynesboro Historic Society is. And we're in there, and we actually were doing a presentation, investigation that night. And as I get there, the group is already there. And up in one of the upper rooms, they had already had a table up there for me and set up. And there were about 6 or 7 people in there. So as I came in, the one girl introduces herself and she says, I'm clairvoyant. And another one steps forward and says, I'm clear audio. And they're at the table, and she says, the girls, I'm trying to think exactly what the girl's name was, but anyhow, the one who was clear audio says, let's say her name was Lisa. She goes, there's a lady here named Lisa. She's told me your name and she's waiting for you. Now, and these girls don't know anything about this session we'd had a week and a half
Right.
earlier. And as soon as I thought, wow. And then the other one saw the girl and sort of described some things. And that's how I had seen her, earlier. So I sit down. She came right away. I felt her give me a hug around the table. And she said, yes, I passed. And she said, and I knew she wouldn't have any trouble crossing, but she just wanted, I guess, she wanted a little assistance, just wasn't
Yeah.
quite sure.
Well,
So,
this is a problem because when you have an accident, even it may not have been your moment and the way you're supposed to transition. People that have accidents, it's so abrupt that they don't get received initially by loved ones or someone to transition them. So it's a lot more difficult. You don't know if you're alive, or you just remember the accident, or you remember whatever. So with
That's a
this,
good way to put it. That's a good way to
yeah,
put it because it's also not a dangerous way to put it because I don't want anybody to think that if you're in an accident, you're always going to be stuck. That's not true. What Brian is
no,
saying, and
it's
here's just another way of saying it like, say you're very
yeah,
infirmed and it's a long term illness. You have time to prepare. You have family coming to visit you. You have an idea of, something's happening. So you're sorting everything. You're taking the rocks out of your pocket, taking the weight off you and the earthly burdens, right? When something like that happens fast, it's not that the people aren't there to visit to help you over. It's that you might be so confused. They're there. You're not seeing them because you're trying to sort what just happened. You're trying to sort where you
right.
are now. And you might start walking away. You might get those, things where like, hey, I was floating above my body and I realized that was me, that kind of stuff. But sometimes people like that just kind of stay and hang around that area until someone like Jim comes along or another spirit and they follow, or another guide comes and they actually lift their head up and be able to see it. So they're
So
not all stuck. They're not all stuck.
something interesting. A couple of months back, I was out talking to somebody I wanted to get on my show that's a tarot reader. So my wife went to pick up our daughter at the middle school. So we park in the high school, which is right next to it. There's a high school canal, and then the middle school. So as my daughter just got there, they heard this accident. and a child, 13 years old, and another child, same age, they got run over by one of the big tractor trailers that carries like a big, construction equipment. And the one kid, his entire head was obliterated, instant death. The other kid broke a couple of bones. So a couple of days later, I mean, I'm heartbroken. I didn't even know the kid, but as a parent, I am just, I can't. It was very hard to deal with. But we went back a couple of days later because my youngest wanted to make a sign to post up. It's become a shrine area. And the problem I have is I see things. And I had to get out of the area. I went over with her, and eventually it was so intense and you couldn't
There's
breathe.
such a gathering of that energy, that lower
Right.
vibrational sadness, and it's all gathering right there in
So,
that name. And that's not a bad thing, because
no, it's
that's in the
not.
place you can go and get it all
Right.
out, and it's not hurting them. But again, like I said, try to
But
laugh a little, especially
Right.
for yourself.
No, in line of what you were saying, so everybody understands. I walked away and she came up like, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I really got to move away." And I kept looking back and I saw a spot that would be wet. And I said, there's a spot there where he died. And she's looking and she's seeing nothing. It's all dried out. They cleared it up. But I see this, I see it. I don't see the brain matter or anything, but I see where it was. And then as I was pulling, walked away further, and every day I pass it actually, this child is sitting in the median and he's like just sitting there looking around like, what the hell happened?
Hmm.
Totally unaware. He's stuck. There's a little piece of him that's stuck there. And I'm trying to, as I go by, you're free, you can go to the light, go to the light. But sometimes spirits just,
Mm-hmm.
they just hang out
It
a little
takes
bit longer.
it takes a little time. It takes a little
Yeah.
time, and keep doing it, and
Yeah. I mean,
we'll work on it. We can get him going together, because he's not listening to you, because for one, you're a male. You're reminding him of some authoritative male.
right.
Right now you're getting blown off. Do you remember a little situation we had with a certain person that
Yeah.
wasn't kind of like, who the hell are you? And all this. And I went, do this. And you did it and it worked. Flipped
Yeah.
it 180. That's similar.
No,
So
it's
yeah.
fine. It's just,
it's just
for
he's
me,
not gonna listen to you because you're a man.
100%.
So what I'm saying is, you might need me when you go by, and when you yell out the window, it won't sound like you. It's gonna sound like me.
Right.
Cisco says, "Look up," and once I got him looking up, we got him, don't we, Jim?
Yeah.
We got him. Were you there, Bri? I don't think you were there the night that the little girl, Jim. All I remember is Dave Haney, our wonderful friend Dave, who's also very much a part of the Hoover House gang and the Keystone State Paranormal. My love and heart goes out to him, and so sorry for your loss, my brother. I'm here if you need me.
Yep.
But Dave is upstairs and he's showing me in the top floor. And all I hear is Jim's voice from, I think, somewhere maybe on the ground floor up the stairs. Get Cisco.
Yeah.
Get Cisco. And I think I looked at Dave and I think I hit him in the chest with my purse. And I'm like, here, hold my beer. I'm like, hold my purse. And I'm down those stairs so quick because I could tell in Jim's voice what was going on. I didn't need to ask Jim. And I meet Jim somewhere on the stairs and he's whispering or telling me as we're going back down the stairs, kind of filling me in on the situation. I don't even remember what you're saying. I remember you're saying it's kind of like, it was so funny, Jim, because when Jim and I get together to energy, I always say this about people, but it's different with everybody. And when Jim and I get together and we're in it. And it's like Bob is another. When Bob walks in, it's same. Together, just we're like this. So we're going down the stairs and it's like we're going to we're like, what do you call them? The first responders when they go to the. Well, all right, what's the scene? All right, we have this, and he's just hitting me with bullet points. And we need, this is where we're at. Da, 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 da. We get down there. I don't even remember sitting down. I have no idea. I think I knew one person that was sitting in the circle. There's somebody over here crying. They're sitting in the circle. They're all holding hands. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Because all I've got is the information Jim's getting me. I have to block all of that. And what I did was I started to tune into the higher vibrational stuff that was hanging around the room that brought whatever, the situation was. And it was a little girl. And I mean, I just had to shut everything off because like Lisa just said here in this chat, it's hard. It's so hard to explain. It's just so hard to explain. So I sit down and I have to block all the stuff around me. I have to tune into the higher vibration. And as soon as I tune in, it's like, bzz, I'm there. And the only other person in this room is this little girl. And just like Bri here was saying, they're only going to listen to certain people, and it has something. It has very little to do with you. It's your energy. It's nothing you can really change or whatever. It's your energy. Okay, in that moment, in that consciousness moment. Okay, so I'm looking at this little girl, and right away I see her, and she's not looking at me. And I'm going, "Hi, sweetie, look over here." And I'm talking to her. And everybody in the room, I have no idea what was going on with them. I could hear murmurs and sounds and things like that and sniffles and, stuff. And words that were being said about the situation, but very, very little. Everybody just knew to pray good energy, to put down good energy and just magnify everything I was saying. And that's kind of the way we do it. It's just like we're agreeing. Now somebody else in the room might be picking up information about her from somebody else, another spirit guide whispering to them, we heard that the nanny's name was such and such, or she really loved the nanny. She had problems with the mom. So what happened to this little girl after all this is getting unpacked? She's giving me stuff. They're giving me stuff. Spirit guides are giving me stuff. Jim's giving me stuff. And we're on it. And he's magnifying what I'm doing, and I'm magnifying what he's doing. And it turns out that this young lady, about 8 years old, the little brother, playing on the stairs, brother falls, passes. Mother blames her.
Yep.
To punish her, drowns her in the tub. Am I got that correct, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
Close enough? And really, the way the mom was and the way the times were back then, parents didn't spend a lot of time, especially if you were society, a person in town, you're busy, you had social things to do. The nanny took care of the kids and brought them in to show them all clean and pretty and what they did that day. And that's pretty much all the interaction you had with mom. And there was also something going on with her. It might have been, I was picking up postpartum depression, maybe a little, little Looney Tunes to begin with, the mom. And this was it. So the problem was how to connect her with the love. So I just go back to what Jim and I do, what Dave does. And, we go onto the battlefield for soldiers. You got to go back, right, Jim? What was the last thing they saw before they passed? So how far back do you got to go to feel that love again? Same thing with the little girl. I had to go all the way back to a pet. She had a dog, right? And as soon as she remembered that dog, I started to, now I can start seeing the light coming from her. The light's getting brighter, from her. She's thinking about the dog. And I'm like, remember how warm the sun felt when you were outside? And oh yeah, I remember that. And how it felt on your shoulder, the warmth of that light and that sun. And as soon as we got her thinking about that and the love, we could turn her face toward that light. And I said, now bring in the nanny. Didn't we, Jim? We brought that nanny in with the spirit guides. And she was able to pull her, coax her through. So again, each one is individual. Each one is separate, but we have multiple stories. The one, Jim, I don't know what your favorite is, but the young lady who came through and the grandmother that came through to the sister was sitting on the couch and she had lost her leg in the hospital. Tell it.
Yeah. There was a lady. She didn't want to sit at the table, and that's not a problem. You can sit in the room, and we oftentimes what we'll ask as we're picking up an energy, is it for someone at the table or is it for someone in the room? Well, this was for someone in the room, and the lady, and here it was her relative, and like you said, she had a leg amputated, and so to demonstrate to her relative that she wasn't in any pain now and that she had been restored, the table, you didn't have to use your imagination. The table literally limped over to her. It was, what, about 7, 8 feet, I guess, from where we were doing the tipping to get over to her at the couch.
Yep.
And
It literally walked like you would walk a table like
yeah,
this. And Bob, his brother-in-law Bob, who is fantastic soul. This man is such an old soul, and he's so intuitive.
Oh,
He's
yes, he
so
is.
naturally. And it took me years to get that out of him, and I only see him every so often. But and I'd tell him, and he looked at me like I had 3 heads. He says, "There's no way." And then the next time I'd see him, he goes, "You won't believe what happened." I'm like, "Yeah, I would." And then he just gets stronger and stronger all the time. But he's sitting across from me.
Case was to show her thing, how she was restored in full.
Yes.
The table slid all the way back to where we were. In other words,
Slid.
it moved over to her,
right,
and then slid back.
Just came right back like nothing.
And oh my gosh, Jim was connecting in and hearing a lot of what this woman was saying and translating, for the room. And he's saying, "Is that correct?" And he's talking to the table, and the table's answering him and everything. And Bob is right across from me. We're all around this table. Bob's right across from me, and we're in tune. We're following on the same thread of energy. And when Jim is asking the questions, he's seeing the answers via the table or maybe spelling out things. And Bob and I are picking up the words, and we'd look at each other and go, "Not anymore." Because Jim said, "Did you lose a leg at the hospital?" And the young lady did not want to go to the hospital to see you like that. I'm telling you, basically, she's saying, I'm not like that anymore. I'm all well. And
Right.
Jim says, "Did you have a leg amputated? You were unable to walk when you were in the hospital. Is that correct?" And Bob and I both looked up at each other, went like this, and went, "Not anymore." And that table just starts walking, baby, across the room, went all the way over and hugged the girl.
Yep.
I came back and did exactly what Jim said, slid all the way back. We almost fell over each other trying to get back as fast, because it proved the fact that it could have done the slide the whole time. It wanted to show her the walk. Spirit is amazing.
And
Amazing.
I'll say for anybody, if you have a chance to table tip, you can be a skeptic. I'm not, I know this
Yep.
might, for somebody, this might sound like, man, they need to be in an institution. I can't explain how this happens, but it happens. I mean, I'm not pulling anybody's leg. We don't have anything wired up or nothing. It just happens. But
we're certainly not getting rich off of it. I'll tell you that right now.
matter of fact, we don't take any money for the table tipping, because we believe it's a spiritual gift, and I don't think you take money for spiritual gifts. But if
I think it's stronger that way. I think it's stronger that way, Jim. I do.
But just don't be a closed mind to the possibilities, because this is truly is a beautiful thing. And I mean, I think I've talked to so many people. We've had people drive 5-6 hours just to come down to the Hoover house to try to get in touch with the son they'd lost. We had a mother and sister, a mother and her daughter came down. They had lost their brother about a year and a half earlier, and they were really having a hard time. And they came down, and we had a beautiful session with them. And they both said how it just changed. It really changed stuff. And then they came back about a year later and had another session. And he came through, and it just made the difference. So again, and the mother even said, I really didn't believe in any of this till then, but she wasn't closed off to the possibility. So that's all I'm saying. You can be a skeptic. That's fine. Just have your mind open to the possibility.
And I just want to state something to you, that when I go and I interact with someone who has abilities, psychic abilities, tarot card readers, table tipping, not that I'm a skeptic, but I know all the charlatans and the tricks, born and raised, 3-card Monty land, I'm always looking. I will tell you from my own personal experience that when your hands are on this table and you're not resting them, they're just lightly touching the table. The table is moving. No one's moving their feet. The table is moving. It's the only explanation is what we've been telling you. The table tips. And I get it. Sometimes you have to be in like they're present to actually see it and experience it. But I promise you, I've even asked questions privately because you don't have to ask a question.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
a
say
good.
it in your mind's eye. I do a lot of internal conversation, and I used a certain example, like I think I said something to the effect of my father. Um, it was great that we had Old English sheepdogs, which we didn't. And I said, I'm going to ask a question. I asked it. I didn't move my mouth. If, wasn't it great that we had Old English sheepdogs? Can you confirm that for me? And the table didn't move. I said, we really had Welsh Terriers. And the table went. Now, I didn't explain this to everybody, but this is what was going on. So it does work. What's great about what I do is I start to tap into what's going on there spirit wise. I see it play out in my head. I could smell it, feel it, touch it, taste it, smell it, everything you want for it. I go back again to the one we did at the battlefield bash. This woman's father came in. He was wearing these short 70s style pants. He had that 70s styles mustache and everything. And you could see the hair coming off. And it was like, and he gave her the biggest hug in the world. And you just get emotional from
Yeah.
it. It's really bizarre how you actually, even though it's like from a father to a son or a father to a daughter, not your own relatives, you feel that emotion. You actually start to get emotional,
Yeah.
and that's the only way to explain it. So I
Absolutely.
promise you, go to the Hoover House,
Hmm.
go for a weekend, get there on a
Yeah.
Friday, leave on a Sunday. You will have the best time in the planet.
There's lots of
It's
stuff to do
amazing.
there. There's good restaurants. There's good. It's not far. Jim, how far is it from Gettysburg? About 25 minutes, something like
Yeah,
that.
about that. And then early part of April, we finally got approval when we're not, now we won't be operating that when we're doing investigations or private sessions, but we finally got our approval for a winery. So we actually have a winery and some draft
That's
beer.
wonderful.
Now
I've got all kind of ideas. I got all kind of ideas to.
that'll
Oh,
help
it's going to
keep
be
the
great.
lights on.
Yep, help keep the
Yes.
lights on for sure. Well, not only that, but you can also rent it for, they do special weekends with different paranormal groups and lots of para celebrities and people that come through. I mean, that they've had there. A lot of our wonderful friends that come to the bash and that are friends of the show that you guys know. Rob Guttrow's been there, wonderful time. So many different things, weddings, different stuff like that. And I've sat down and I've talked to Pam and I'm like, okay, give me all the days you're not doing something because I can make you money. because
Yeah.
because it's perfect for history. It's the town and the history is so rich there. And the things that have happened there, and they just had their centennial not too long ago. And more's coming up, and this is one of those towns that kind of got forgotten up the past like 10-15 years. Industrial started going out, everybody knows it. So like this was a big industrial town. What was the name of it started with an L? Was it Leeds? Was the big industrial out there that pretty much made the town and then it grew from there? I
Okay,
mean, I'm going way back.
my wife's related. I always
She knows.
forget
I think
which
it's
part of the
Leeds. I think it's Leeds. I think it is. But it was big steel, when America was really manufacturing like crazy. So it started to decline because manufacturing started to go out, and the real the lovers of the town stayed and kept it going. Now it's on this upcline. I mean, so many new houses on the outskirts are being
Yep.
built. I mean, I'm talking, $500,000 homes, things like that. But this town it's still got that old town feel, that quaint camaraderie with the commerce, and everybody works together, and it's just wonderful. And I don't know if Spirit picked this spot in between, because there's other houses that I know of that are similar, other places, right? But it may be that there was so much death and dying around. I mean, for 100-mile radius, just like around Gettysburg, that's why it all converged there. But Waynesboro's not that far. You've got Antietam, Harper's Valley, so much. And in the town, there was pretty much two battles. I mean, I think it was held by for a couple of weeks. Was it almost 3 weeks there?
Confederates had
Occupied.
about a week and a half before
Okay.
Gettysburg.
Yeah. But coming back through, as Jim said, Lee brings his, all the wound. And oh my gosh, read my book. It'll tell you, Jim and I just crying, going through that chapter. I mean, my God. So they come through Waynesboro. Now, the cool part about it is everybody here too is also interested in the history. So you've got everybody involved in the paranormal, and you've got them involved in the history, and they're involved in the town and keeping that commerce going and putting the life, back into it, and just really shaking it up. And it's wonderful. But they also have the tours, the haunted tours. You guys got that didn't you guys get the okay to have all the haunted tours there, the cemetery and stuff?
Honestly, my sister and Pam all got ready. They got all the stuff down, and they did a number of them. But we just so busy, and
Right.
so we really haven't had any for a while. But they had all that prepared up, so we really know the factoids of the town,
Right.
and some fascinating things came through. There was a matter of fact, they found there was back in the 30s, during Depression, there was a woman in town there who had triplets, but she only had one arm. That's tough. That one arm is tough if you have a child
Wow.
to have triplets. So what the townspeople did, this was very inventive. They made little cards, like postcards of the triplets, and they sold them for like $1 or $2. And I guess they sold enough of them that the woman was able to hire some help to get by with
good.
the kid.
Oh,
So,
wow.
these little factoids in the town that are just fascinating.
It is. It's wonderful. And there was also where Lee came through and watered his horse in the square, which is kind of a circle. Kind of like, I don't know what it is about Pennsylvania, but their squares are circles. I don't know how they do it. But right there, there's a fountain. And wasn't there something about a baby?
Yeah, there was. Lee's coming through after his defeat at Gettysburg, and he's in the town square, and he's watering Traveler. First off, a gentleman approaches, and it's a soldier who fought with Lee in the Mexican War, and he lived in town. And he come up, he says, I don't know if you remember me, General Lee, but I fought with you at such and such. And of course, they exchanged niceties for a short while and that. And then a family had a newborn. I think it was a couple weeks old. Well, here's this famous individual in town. So they go running up to the square, and there's Lee, and he's watering his horse. And they basically say, General Lee, here's our newborn son or daughter. I forget which it was. But here's Lee, shows the man. He's just suffered this crushing defeat. And God knows his frame of mind. And he had the humanity to hold the child, sort of bless the child. And he gave the family, back in that era, they had calling cards. So if you visited someone, you were someone of note, and they weren't home, you left a calling card that you'd come to visit.
Yep.
And so Lee gave him his calling card, I guess. And they still have it, the family, from back there in 1863. So
that is just so neat.
Yeah, I mean, and that story, we've been able to verify it with the family, and that's not in any of the history books,
Right.
But it show the mettle of the man.
There, it true, and I mean, to after everything he was going through with the, you would think he would be all gruff and grumbly at that point. But I found this little piece and I wanted to show you about 10 minutes of this, Jim. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is from 1997, Waynesboro. This is their 200 years of history. This was their celebration, and they did a video all on Waynesboro. You can see it on YouTube. I don't even know if Jim has seen this, but it is, I think I've got it at the spot that Jim's talking about. And it's a little bit about the story that Jim just told and a little bit about Waynesboro. I'll play about 10 minutes of it. I'm going to run and get some hot water and tea. And then we'll come back and we'll close the show with Jim's favorite story from Hoover House and maybe Keystone Paranormal. He's been on all these battlefields. Jim has been in deep, dark, danky cellars with me in Gettysburg, and we've seen some amazing things. And how is Mike Simpson, by the way? I've not heard from him in a while. Is he okay?
Yeah, I think Mike's doing okay.
Give him my love if you hear from him.
Yeah, we haven't seen him for about 2 years.
Oh, yeah, he's got to come out there. He's so good at the communication, and he and I together as ex-military, and these guys didn't want to talk to anybody that weren't military in this cellar. Maybe we tell that story when we come back, but 10 minutes, guys, and then we'll come tell our stories and let these people go on about their stuff. And this has been fascinating. It's the fastest 2 hours I think I've spent all week, and but this is really good. So just a little piece of this. Had you seen this, Jim?
Yeah, I actually, they played the entire clip in our local movie house.
Oh, did they? Oh, I love and the little theater that's down there was terrific. But this is just a little piece out of the middle about when Lee and what happened in the town. So very interesting. All right, guys, see you in 10.
April 12, 1861. Secessionist rebels attacked Fort Sumter, South Carolina, and put into motion the defining event of the century. The news took 4 days to reach Waynesboro, buried on page 2 of the village record. Few could fully comprehend what the American Civil War would become. The Mason-Dixon line, just a few miles away, suddenly became a symbolic chasm deeply dividing North and South. And almost overnight, Waynesboro sat perched at the doorstep of the enemy.
The great moral force in the Civil War came from the small towns. Waynesboro started to recruit the first of the 3-month men. The war was only going to last 3 months. They formed the Ladies' Aid Society to support these people going to war, put up 3 flagpoles in the community. And you have to remember, there was no telegraph or no railroad. So communications were slow and reaction would have been slower at that time.
Recruit posters and newspapers bore scareheads, inspiring service and financial assistance. Taverns became news centers. Dozens of men from the area joined up, leaving the simplicity of the farm to take part in what promised to be a noble adventure to save the Union. Little did they know the colossal scope of what was to come. By September of 1862, the war was in full force. After a series of Southern victories, General Robert E. Lee crossed 18,000 Confederate troops into Maryland and headed north. His goal? The Federal Rail Center in Harrisburg. One more victory, he thought, and Europe would be forced to recognize the Confederacy. Waynesboro stood in his path. Meantime, a Union corporal patrolling an abandoned Confederate camp near Frederick discovered a copy of Lee's orders by chance. Now armed with the enemy's plan, General George McClellan ordered his troops north to intercept Lee. They collided on the rolling hills just outside Sharpsburg. Just to the north in Waynesboro, cannon fire could be heard thundering through the valley. For the first time, the ferocity of the war was frighteningly close. Townspeople held a tense vigil and braced for the worst. Robert E. Lee's northern advance was cut short, but at a horrific cost to both armies. The battle at Antietam was the bloodiest day of the entire war.
The casualties, not many came directly through Waynesboro, nor did many of the refugees from Maryland. But when they found out, it was a pretty tragic occurrence, and it brought home to them the closeness of the war, I'm sure of that.
Just 1 month later, the Confederate Army threatened the area again. Lee's best cavalry officer, General Jeb Stuart, staged a daring northern bolt just a few miles west of Waynesboro. His goal, a rail bridge near Scotland and a bit of psychological warfare.
And of course, they attempted to burn the bridge at Scotland, but it's kind of disappointing because it was iron, they couldn't burn it. And the people of Waynesboro were frantic about that because there were outriders, and I think the figure is something like 1,800 horses were gathered from Mercersburg down through Franklin County and on down into Maryland before they crossed.
Once Stuart was safely back across the Mason-Dixon, the outriders disappeared. By June of 1863, Ulysses Grant held Vicksburg in siege. Determined to break the stalemate, Robert E. Lee planned another northern invasion toward Harrisburg. Once again, Waynesboro stood in his path, and this time there would be no stopping him. Word spread quickly. The rebels were coming.
Mr. Phillips, who was head of one of the banks, he was a little bit upset. So he loaded all of the assets of his bank into a carriage and took it out to roadside in the vicinity of what we now know as the Waynesboro Country Club and buried it.
Carl Besor's grandparents owned a dry goods store on the square.
The family hurriedly moved everything that they could possibly get into the attic to hide it. My father at the time was age 5, and of course he wanted to help. They gave him a few light things to carry up the steps, but he soon became tired, so my grandmother sent him out in the yard to play. Pretty soon she heard this: "Come on, Stonewall Jackson, the goods are in the attic." Needless to say, he was brought back into the house in a jiffy.
On June 23, 1863, hundreds of Confederate troops stormed the town. Waynesboro was taken without a single shot fired. East and west of Waynesboro, Confederates engulfed the valley as their columns pushed northward.
You simply could not march an army of, take a figure of about 70,000 to 80,000. You couldn't march that on one route. It was stretched from Chambersburg to Winchester. So they were using parallel routes.
Lee ordered a unit to stay back, to hold Waynesboro as a possible escape route. While they waited, soldiers began to loot the town. One of the enemy encampments was set up in the fields of the Franz farm.
Oh, this pump handle was in the front yard. And
Look at that, Jim.
grandfather said they pumped the well dry from the horses and the men. We got in the cellar down here in the front part of the house, in the brick part. And the guard come in and run them out of there, and one of them left his revolver in there.
Bands of rebels moved from farm to farm, taking animals, grain, anything they could carry. Others moved through the town.
Terrible
They
part of
found the
war.
newspaper office, and they smashed all of the equipment used to put out the daily paper. In fact, there was no printed news for approximately 6 weeks.
Soldiers also came calling at the Besor's store. Carl's grandmother had barricaded herself inside.
She heard the rifle butts against this wooden door and shouted, "First one inside this door gets his head split open with an axe." I often asked my father, "Do you think she would have done that?" He says, "Yes, I believe she would have."
Just over the mountains, the Union Army caught up with Lee at Gettysburg. A hellacious battle entwined both armies for 4 deadly days. When it was over, Lee was turned back once again. The decisive but costly Union victory at Gettysburg was the turning point of the war. Crippled and on the run, retreating rebel units made their way through or near Waynesboro. Stories tell of the square being jammed, curb to curb with soldiers, horses, and caissons. It said that General Lee himself stopped at the town pump in Center Square to water his horse Traveler. Carl Besor's grandmother and young father may have been eyewitnesses.
She held him up at one of the front windows so he could see him and told him who that gentleman with the white horse was.
One man, George Davis, he walked up to Lee and supposedly said,
That's
"Do you
what
remember me?
Jim told
I
you.
was in your unit in Mexico during the Mexican War." They shook hands and talked on the, and of course that story was embellished over the years, but basically that did happen. So we're 99% sure that Lee did make a stop here.
Now, where did he sleep, Jim? Do you have
Waynesboro
a
was under the
Lee
Confederate
slept
flag
here?
for 15
No,
days.
no, he didn't.
Farms, stores,
General Early
factories, and
was the
homes
one
were
who
looted
was
in
in
exchange
town
for.
sleeping.
J-
Yeah, Lee didn't spend any time in Waynesboro, just traveled through, but General Early did. Jubal Early was one of his later one of his corps commanders. But he had a deal going. The looting in that on the town was minimal because General Early called the women there and said, "Look, my men need food." So he said, "If you'll bake for them, bring up food loaves and stuff like that, and deposit them here," he said, "I'll promise you I'll keep them in tow, so to minimize any looting or property damage." And that's what happened. He got thousands of loaves deposited at where they made headquarters, and they were distributed to the men.
Wow. Wow. So that's just it. I don't know where you guys are listening to this tonight, but if do you know what went on in your town? Do you know the history there? That's one of the things that drew me to Waynesboro. And when Jim first said, "Hey, come on out here," and then of course I'm dragging Bowden there, and and I'm trying to get the Stocktons to come out there, and see, because there's an energy, and I know the people that it's drawing, and it's not just me. They're bothering me because they're like, "Come on, are you coming?" I'm like, "Okay, well, we're in the middle of an apocalypse, if you hadn't noticed, so we're trying to hang on, to see." But you see, because man, the last couple of years has been rough on everybody, right? So you just
Yep.
want to maintain and keep your eye on the prize, and I'm telling you, Waynesboro is just so beautiful, and it deserves to come back to its fullness. And I think a lot of you guys live in towns. Maybe you're in a city, and if you're in a city, you're not going to have this feeling, but you have a history there. If you're in New York City, there's a history there. You can go to the New York City Library, you can go to the museums, and you can do the things. I think that's as close as you can get, other than being in a historic building and have something to do with that. But when you have a town that has lived as Waynesboro has, and there's a million stories like this, that has this historic significance. I think it's important to keep it alive. I think it's important to be proud of it, put it out front, celebrate it, have festivals, have the kids know where they're coming from, have things that the kids can come and learn about the history, because for some odd reason, our kids are not being taught history in schools, and I think that's going to change. And I think we're going to start going back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. I really do. I feel it in my bones.
Yep.
So
Yep.
hang on to that. But we need to start where you live, because I believe, and now you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going to speak it. uh, I believe that if you teach a child to respect himself, they'll respect others. If you teach a child to care and be compassionate, not silly about it, not ignorant, because we have to be careful. That's the hardest thing in life, other people. But if you can teach them to respect themselves, they'll respect other people. That's where it starts. And if you're going to learn history, isn't it nice to learn history right where your feet are? And Waynesboro is one of those places that when you look back and you watch the uprising of right now, right after this war, they were industrial. They were iron. They were pounding. They were manufacturing like crazy. That place was humming. And then, what a shame to watch over 20 years, 30, maybe 20, where it's just starting to go because all the jobs went away and the people go
Yep.
away. Well, they're coming back because, honey, I'm watching houses all around that area being built and being sold. And I'm telling you, look into your town, and if things have looked bleak and gray, look around and see how you can improve your community, learn about your community, learn about your history, and tell your kids and grandkids where they are and what happened under their feet. Even if you've got to go back 100 years to find something of significance or of written
Well,
history, it's important. And I think Waynesboro is one of those towns that's going to blow it off the map. It's going to rise like nothing. It's going to be beautiful, but in the right way, with compassion and caring, built on love and caring compassion for your fellow man and your brother down the
yep.
street. and that business, and happy when that business is successful, and that kind of thing. I think it's coming back. What do you guys think about that?
So to add to that, I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up just a little bit up on a hill from where the foundry was. I don't know if it was the Merrimack or the other vessel for the Civil War. A block away, Monitor. A block away from my house, you'll see where the Henry Hudson Memorial Park is. There's a big statue of him. About 100 feet from, north of that, I used to pass this every day walking to school, is George Washington's Fort Number 1. Just think about that. And unfortunately, a lot of these municipalities and cities have just, we don't care, but they need to care. The history is what makes this country what it is. You don't want to deny the history, because what happens, or hide
You're
it.
destined to repeat it.
You're going to repeat it. So
George
tearing
Santayana.
tearing down of statues, not a good idea.
Nope.
And
none of that happened around there.
No, none
You know
of it.
why? Respect. I heard very little
Yep.
coming out of Gettysburg, Waynesboro, Antietam. Jim, what do you think? I mean, I'm driving through there. I'm seeing all kind of everything was not. What was your perspective?
Well, unfortunately, Gettysburg in some ways is trying to get away from its history, which is very upsetting to me.
How in the world could that happen?
Well, you put the certain people in political power, and it happens.
Yep.
And they're really, it's a shame. I mean, there's a lot. I'm not saying that when you go to Gettysburg, you still have the Park Service, and they're active and
understood.
But really, they really sort of become a little aggressive toward reenactors, or with the history and all that. I mean, so that's why some of the outskirts have been so picking up the slack, so to speak.
Well, you know what I see? A growth opportunity. I see a business opportunity. I say, come on down to Waynesboro and let's reenact the battles that happened, and respect the history. Let's teach the kids. Let's, look, my brain goes, but I also know how to make it happen, because I've been out there and I've done it before, and it doesn't take a lot to infuse new vigor into a situation. You know what I mean? And it's like, look, you could take those kids and just take them through the house and show them that, take them to a museum, and listen to their wonder and their questions and everything else. Kids want to learn, and they want to be proud of.
I've always been drawn to the Civil War. First off, I think the American spirit was starting to be molded out of that period. And it was one of the greatest periods for our leadership in this country on both sides. I mean, you go through and
can't be denied. It's true.
There were competence and there were bums, but look at the true leaders and the men of character and honor. And that's what really upsets me when someone tries to place, like, just because you fought for the South doesn't mean you were a scumbag. I mean, but
no.
Slavery. We view times
fighting for all those young boys. They didn't have any. They were poor. They were out of the midtowns. They were fighting for the rats.
These
for the rats,
and gave all. And it's when they were men of character. What they went through.
Too young. So the intestinal fortitude of those soldiers. I'm telling you, you have to go back 100 years to hit it. Now, that's not taken away from anybody now, because Lord knows I've, got many boots I love dearly, and forget about it. Don't even think about it. But I about took him down over some. It's just he asked him. Brian poke my buttons, and I'm like, my face changes.
Yeah, no, it does.
Ooh, I get crazy.
part of the problem we have for the longest period of time right now, probably since the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, is the misinformation we're teaching children. You know, the Civil War.
It's propaganda.
Well, it is. The Civil War isn't just about slavery. It's about one part of the country which had the money and the commerce and was well-to-do, dictating to another part of the country what they should, they're going to do. And no one, I mean, if you ask any American,
and it wasn't just that too. It's like the South had plenty of stuff too, and it was almost like, we have this and you need this, and we have this and you have this, and we're going to get, again, this was an argument that they had during the writing of the Declaration of Independence. I mean, there was two paragraphs on it. Thomas Jefferson wrote it out, and it was argued in there. If you leave that in there, I believe it was Ben Franklin who said it. Forgive me if it was someone else. They said, if you leave that in there, this will never be passed, because there was too many, from molasses to rum to slaves. So again, understood on that, but it's propaganda and psyop to create a narrative to push that way. It was a big part, but it wasn't the only part. And there was other parts that were much more the underlying stuff. I mean, I did so much on my Liberty series, and when I did Lincoln and, and everything else, and the Knights of the Golden Circle, and we bring in all of this stuff. There's always a dark underbelly,
But the whole point I was trying to make is
they were fighting on their own soil.
Right. As Americans, there is not one American that wants to be dictated to what to do.
True.
We're very amicable. We're very amicable. We will work with you.
Freedom.
Okay. But if you say, no, you're going to do this, you're going to, you're poking the bear.
My rights until your rights until your rights start getting your chocolate starts getting in my peanut butter. We got a problem, buddy. So that's it. But the point going back to the intestinal fortitude of the American soldier, I mean, is nothing like it. And and I see it in other countries too. And I don't mean to be, that's not what I mean. It's in anybody that puts on a uniform and fights for something they believe in, because whether they've been, manipulated to believe it or whether they truly believe it. But there's nothing like someone who is fighting for their, for their freedom and their own land and their family and their, what they love. And here's the thing. We forgot to teach the kids to love what they're standing on, to love. Look, this is what they're so used to getting everything instantly. They don't appreciate having to work for. And of course, I'm broad brushing it here, but look at the results. So, prove me wrong with science. All I'm saying is, I think history and self-respect and history and respect for your elders and going back to some of the old ways, not all, there's some good in there. That's my opinion. There's some good going on now. I mean, I like pushing a button and being able to watch a video. I like, I get it. But it's just like hands. Hands could be used to choke somebody or save a life.
Or heal them.
And it's the same thing. We all have these choices. So if we can inject real history in and hold the kid's hand and walk them through it and be there for the questions and the answers and the empathy and the love and the understanding, and I go, yeah, the war sucks. That's why we don't want it. That's why we don't want it anymore. That's why you learn to speak it through, walk it through, or agree to disagree and leave each other alone, because they have the freedom to be that way. And you have the freedom to be over here this way, as long as neither one affects or somebody's getting hurt.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
And
take us out with your final thoughts on this.
Yes, Jim.
I'm sorry, but you're or however you want to take it out. Go ahead, honey.
Well, I would just like to give kudos to both Cisco and Brian. I'm so much of this. I started out investigating spirits and ghosts like everybody. You got the little tools, and you get an EVP, and you get this, and things. It's funny how things change, and as you get involved and you start, you really do gain a knowledge of a lot, and feel very blessed for that. And I thank both of you for your willingness to help others. I know a lot of times that when I get into certain situations that I really don't know how to explain or to help others, both Brian and Cisco have been very good resources, and I appreciate their
Ditto.
willingness to help everyone.
Ditto,
And
baby.
Right back
just,
at you.
just, you know,
That's what we're here for, Jim.
as
We're all
far as
here
Hoover
for
House
this.
goes, if you like to go get scared or you want to come face to face with some terrifying spirit, I don't think we're your place. I mean,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
we're in
Well, the
a
thing
different
is
state of
what Jim is saying also is he forgets the fact that I was choked in his cellar. So, you have to understand the scale of which we speak. You know what I'm saying? But because
And
there are very interesting things that
I didn't
happen there
choke.
that, no, it wasn't Jim. Jim didn't do it. It was a ghost, a female ghost who was a prostitute that was just showing me what she went through. And I understood it. But the cool part was everybody in the room understood it and let things play out the way they did. Michael Acciano was there. So many people. Brandon, my sons were there. My wonderful daughter-in-law, Michael Simpson. And it was just. But because we did that, we were able to at least start the conversation with this young lady and found out amazing things, Jim. That she was actually there to help the guy that did this. And it was for both of them. Right? Am I right? Or I think this has been confirmed with other people, has it not? What we picked up that night?
Yeah, no, it's pretty. Yeah, no, it's been by quite a few people over the years. Yep.
See?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And again, what Brian said. They come back to help each other. They come with so if they're coming back after death to help other spirits, they may not even be total strangers. It's an energy thing or something that they were compelled to do to help themselves rise up as well as the other one rise up. Why can't we do that when we're alive?
And Lisa, you're right. The basement was a speakeasy during Prohibition. And I don't know if I told you, we found out we actually had a famous visitor. I guess it was sometime in the 60s. Art Garfunkel was there. He was he used to like to come to little places off the beaten path by himself. We actually talked to a gentleman who worked there as a bartender, and he remembers. They didn't even know it was him until he went to pay his bill, and then they saw the name and stuff. But so we have had a celebrity.
Wow.
Yeah, you've had a bunch of them. So, there's a lot of Paris celebrities there. And
absolutely.
Of course, on my first visit to the location, Cisco goes, "Oh, Bri, you got to go in the basement." Knowing what she knows, I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
Oh, no, please go in the basement."
Because
it was a surprise.
Well, see, that's it. I mean, they've had wondrous things. Pam Barry, she got wonderful shot of a full, I would say full figure shadow, dark shadow. And I believe that's one of the guys that was running stuff back and forth. I mean, they've all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, we had a guest a couple weeks ago was evidently there in May and took a shot on the front porch. They were gathered around. It was about 5 of them. They felt something toward the end. So she took this picture and she sent it to us. And it's a full apparition at the end. And you can see the slats of the porch, between
right
them. I mean, he's there, but it's a full, like, this black, this full apparition.
It's hanging out.
So that was a good shot, yeah.
And see the place, it picks up stuff around it. You've got the soldiers, you've got all the things that have happened there. What was the battle you guys had the encampment? That's not far from there too. You've got the Lenape, Lenny Lenape, my people, upstarting, kicking butt out there, all the redheads. And they started some trouble out there by a bridge and had a big skirmish out there, didn't they, Jim? I mean, it's all around there. And Antietam is how far?
Antietam's about a half hour away. Yep.
Half hour. And then you got Harper's Valley where you had Jim Brown.
Yeah, everything's like a half hour away.
It's like a circle. So here's what I say, folks. If you are interested in any of this in history or just a lovely house in a way, and to be able to have go 3 days, go Antietam and Harper's Valley one day, maybe, go to Virginia, go to Boston, Washington, D.C., maybe if you wanted to go there. It's you're not far from any. It's Philly. So you go there, look on the it's Airbnb, and it's all listed there, the rooms and the rates and all that stuff. Get a hold of the Berries, get a hold of they pretty much handle reservation stuff through that, right, Jim?
Yep.
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 And there's also the Gettysburg Bash is coming up. That is what, July?
And the last weekend in July.
Last weekend in July.
Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
That's your Paracon. And, look, you're there 3 days. I say take 4. Go see the battlefield. Go to Little Round Top. Go to, look, we'll make you cards. If you want to pick them up at the thing, we'll make flyers. And you can hand them out in Gettysburg and say, if they won't let you learn history here, we'll teach you a little over in Waynesboro. Come see us. Right, Jim?
Just let everybody know, though, you are not now allowed
Nothing.
to basically ghost hunt or whatever on Gettysburg at any time, day or night, any hour. And if you would have equipment with you and stuff like that, they'll confiscate it, and it could even be worse. Evidently their ruling was that the spirits are relics and they don't allow relic hunting.
That's actually very interesting and clever.
I love stuff like that because look, some of us don't need equipment. I was born with the equipment, so we can just walk in there bare ass if we need to, and cross soldiers, and they'll walk right out there with us, and that's just the way it's going to be, because I will sit on a rock in Devil's Den, and if a ghost sits down next to me,
and
there'll be some crossing going on.
I mean, that's where Dave and I cut our teeth. I mean, good God.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it'll more than likely it'll change. Give it a little time. We don't give up hope, but meanwhile, we can take the overflow in Waynesboro and bring them over there to Hoover House. Talk to Jim. Get in there. Connect with Jim on. And now, can they get to you through the website, or like if say somebody wanted to try to set up a paranormal weekend?
Yeah,
Pam.
If they talk to Pam, yeah, she'll get, they can leave a message with her and I'll get back and stuff. And
then just let her know that they'd be interested in maybe doing some table tipping or something like that with you. Maybe they can schedule with you. That would be fantastic. Because here's the thing. If you're supposed to be there, you're going to be there. And if you go with an open mind, you're going to hear from who you need to hear from, and you're going to hear what you need to hear at the time of your consciousness. If you go in with that, so you're going to have to walk away with an experience. You really are. Even if it's somebody else's. But who was that one that used to say, even if for everybody in the room, if you don't get a reading, the other readings are for you too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you want your own, but at least you're seeing, because when you see Brian or you see somebody like Michael Laciana or somebody else come through and they're kind of like, and they're looking, because they're investigators, they're coming in with that Houdini, which is fine. My feet are tucked under the chair. I hook my feet under the chair until I have to get up and run with the table if that happens. But you know what I mean, Jim? We always tuck our feet way under. It's like we just have very tips on it. And I'm telling you, the most beautiful things have happened there. We helped a couple from Florida. Jim, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Jim told me nothing. And it's not like he's trying to set me up. We just sit down and see what happens.
Yep.
And he told me nothing. And before I know it, I'm singing Patsy Cline to this guy. And he's getting ready to go get ice cream. And he's got his big old smile when he left. Everybody at the table, I think, felt better. And you can see why these people spent all that time coming. And they didn't even know really what they were there for. Or did they come for that, Jim? I can't remember.
No, I mean, it happens both ways. Sometimes people are just drawn there and they don't know why. And then sometimes, people have made special requests or whatever.
That's awesome. And I think it's wonderful to have something like this. We need to have a big old psychic fair there and all kinds of other stuff. You got that wine flowing, Jim. Gosh. I think that's wonderful. And it's wonderful how things have a way of blending through. And I'm not joking when I say about the burst, because here's the thing. Ask Bri. I am on real estate like white on rice. Let's just keep it clean. And I'm watching all the outskirts, $500,000 homes. Something's going in there. And it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be either factories are going to start firing up. Something is going on, because you have to think about it, Jim. Who in the heck has got $50,000 a month to pay for a mortgage?
Right.
Right.
Now, where are those jobs? You see where
Yeah.
I'm coming from? So around that area is about to boom up because I think we're going back to manufacturing and opening factories again, and companies are coming in, and there's going to be jobs. There's going to be a boom. So we have a chance to get in on that underneath that door and start get ready for them now. You know, I think it's going to be wonderful. I really do. I see it really blooming because there's an energy there and it's a resurgence. And I hope that's happening in your town too. So I just said all that because I want you to be able to recognize it if it's happening in your town. If you're starting to see a lot of really expensive homes being sold, where are these people working? You know, how far are they
Right.
willing to commute? You know, I don't think these people are going all the way to Boston, but they could be just looking for a beautiful place. But either way, that commerce is coming to your town. So that's an opportunity for you to excel in the business or trade you're doing, or that business you wanted to try. Think about that, because people that act in the beginning of something like this really prosper. You know, I'm not
Right.
saying, am I wrong? So, I mean, I've seen it happen in Huntsville. I saw it happen in places in Tennessee. I've seen it happen. And you know how to look the sign. I feel it all over. So if that helps you, look, let me tell you something. A couple months ago, I told a lot of my Canadian friends, buy Jack Daniels. Buy Jack Daniels by the case. It's not going to last long, but while you can, get in there and make that money, because it's going to go up just for a little while, you know. But look, that's the thing. Strike while the iron is hot. If somebody had said Yahoo or Google to you back in the, you know what I mean?
Someone did actually.
Oh, did you? Did?
Yeah.
But you know,
Yep.
like a time traveler or something, you give you a little thing like, hey, you know, this one's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
win the World Series, or this one's going to win the boxing match, or, you know, put money in this stock, or, you know.
Right.
So think about that, guys. Look around your town and look for the signs. Get hope in your heart. Teach your kids respect, and maybe go to the antique mall and see if any tables talk to you. And if you want to know more about table tipping, I've got about 3 episodes with Jim. They're right here on this channel. Bri is in some of them, and we go deeply into explaining a little bit more about the table tipping and stuff like that. But this has just been impromptu and absolutely lovely. And send my love to everybody in Waynesboro, Jim. I just so good to see you.
Same here.
Too, buddy.
You
That
look
was a
wonderful. You look
nice
wonderful.
one.
I feel like your energy is boosting back up. You had a long day, but you're still feeling
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, it was a little tough there beginning of the year, but I'm finally
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm finally getting myself back
Yeah.
together.
Do
So,
some more of that fire gazing and a little, you know, a little bit more self-care. Spend time with you, because we got a big, bright, beautiful future coming, I think. So
okay.
let's just all manifest that. I love you, Brian. Thank you for jumping
Well,
in.
thank
These
you.
Pleasure.
Thank you
impromptus
so
are
much.
always the best. And
All
catch
right.
Brian. Where's your show, Brian? Tell him where to catch your show.
This Wednesday night, Third Eye Live is on YouTube at Brian Bowden. We have Penny Shepherd, who is the original 11. So it's going to be very interesting. We're going to talk about MK Ultra and some other things.
Okay, gotcha.
And she's the character in Stranger Things 11 is modeled after her.
Oh, wow. And when's that? This Wednesday?
This Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern,
YouTube.
and
On the inner tube.
YouTube on the inner tube. So
On the inner
yep.
tubes. Good
Yep.
night, everybody. Good night, Scott. Good, all my lovely mods. Thank you for the help and the bacon. Jim, thank you again for coming in.
Yep.
My love all around. Give Dave a punch in the arm for me, will you? And tell him I love him.
He's doing good. He's doing
Okay,
good. I saw
good.
him last night.
Oh,
All right,
good, good.
night, guys.
All right. Good night,
Good
everybody. A little
Bye.
bit. I love you, my brother. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. I love you. Teach your kids history. Keep your eyes open. Change is coming.
2, 3, and...